वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्.
Hi, and welcome to Geeta Girl. My name is Sharmila, and the Geeta Girl podcast is about how to live skillfully and be your best self by using the advice in the Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Krishna, Shaila.
Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome to Geeta Girl. Today we will be talking about a topic that I think many of us think about or have certainly been asked about if we call ourselves a Hindu, and that is reincarnation.
Shaila, I know you were very keen to talk about reincarnation today. I want to thank you for that because looking at the past episodes, we've done 24 and reincarnation's not on there. It's definitely a huge topic in Hinduism.
Yes.
A big topic in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's so important that Lord Krishna addresses this very close to the beginning. I think we've been kind of remiss in not tackling this earlier. I know even as recently as this evening, I was like, do we have to do reincarnation? And you were like, yes, we do.
I need it. I've been reflecting a lot on this topic. I think that as Hindus, we think about reincarnation all the time because I think it's probably the question we get asked the most. So it's always something that I'm aware of and I think about. And sometimes I use it as a threat. When my kids were misbehaving, I used to say that in their next life, they were coming back as a dung beetle. I would say that about myself. I would excuse my bad behavior and be like, well, obviously in my next life, I'm coming back as a dung beetle. But it's also been like a comfort. I've been telling you that, I lost my two uncles in the last couple of months who I was very close with. And my closest childhood friend just lost her daughter who was 21 years old. Just horrible tragedy.
Yep.
That one was. But in all of these scenarios, been thinking a lot about reincarnation. And my friend's sister, who I also was very close with growing up, she was raised Catholic, and she was saying that the concept of reincarnation brings her some peace. And the way that I've been taught about it is that people's souls are intertwined for long after even this life. And that can be something that's good or bad. Like people that you love and have good feelings about, your souls might be connected with theirs in some capacity in your next life, but also people who you have not resolved a conflict with in some way might be connected to you in your next life.
Oh, Lordy. I have a list of people that I do not want.
Not you again.
Yeah.
It's so true, but I think there's so much we don't know. That's why I was really excited about doing this podcast, honestly, because I just would like to learn more. I mean, I don't know how much of what I've thought about is just what I want to think about because it brings me comfort. Maybe the fact that it brings you comfort is all that counts and all that matters. I think maybe to learn more about what the concept is and talk about what it means to people in this life in terms of reflecting on people who are no longer with us, but also how you should live your life.
Yeah, let's see if we can answer both of those questions, both of those issues.
Great.
I'm hearing from you that there's two aspects you'd like to explore. The first is getting comfort and coping with loss through the idea of reincarnation. And the second aspect is how do we act? If reincarnation is indeed a fact and a truth, what does that mean for our day-to-day actions?
Exactly. Would it change the way you behave? I don't know. I mean, I think it does. Many of you might have heard of the Indigo Girls. They have a very famous song called Galileo, and it's about reincarnation. And one of the lines in this song is, and it feels like some sort of inspiration to let the next life off the hook. Or she'll say, look what I had to overcome for my last life. I think I'll write a book. The idea that if you act a certain way in this life, like you've incurred a lot of good karma in this life, maybe in your next life, things will be better, right? That's the hope, that we keep moving in a positive direction and not backsliding, right?
If you believe in reincarnation, yes, that is definitely the hope. And let's see what Lord Krishna has to say about all of this in black and white in the Bhagavad Gita, without you and I kind of talking about various theories espoused by many sources.
Without talking about what the Indigo Girls have to say about it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what Krishna has to say. It's not an easy topic. A lot of people have issues with it because it's something we really can't prove. But let's get to it. Reincarnation. What does it mean? As I said before, Lord Krishna addresses this topic very close to the beginning of the Gita. I'll just give you a sort of larger macro picture, okay? We always think that we're a body that happens to have a soul.
Right.
But Krishna tells us that is actually reversed. Truly, what we are is a soul, and that soul reincarnates. The soul enters from one body to the next and continues its journey using the body as a vehicle to create action, karma, and purify the soul and elevate the soul so that the soul can eventually elevate itself so high that it becomes godlike, and then the soul can free itself of this cycle of birth and death and eventually reunite with God.
So the idea is that reincarnation isn't something that will happen for eternity. The goal is for there to be an end. I mean, that's the belief.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal, for us to stop this cycle of birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, creating more karma. Because life on this planet, life on Earth, it's great, but it also kind of sucks.
It's tough. It's hard.
Nobody's life is without suffering.
That's right.
So in order to free ourselves of the suffering in this world, we want to free ourselves of continually taking birth in this world and elevate our souls and reunite with God. So that's the macro view. And let's talk about what the Gita says about that.
Yes.
And it'll all make more sense. Close to the beginning of the Gita, when Arjun is, as we know, having a panic attack and so much anxiety about doing his duty, which happens to be to fight his cousins, to battle his cousins. Lord Krishna starts giving his advice in chapter 2, verse 11. By chapter 2, verse 12, he's already talking about reincarnation. Okay?
He gets right to it.
Doesn't waste any time. He tells Arjun that there was never a time when Krishna didn't exist. And there was never a time that Arjun is symbolic for us humans, you, me, Shayla, all our listeners, everybody. He says there was never a time when Krishna didn't exist, Arjun didn't exist, and there's never been a time when all the beings on the planet did not exist, and there will never be a time where we will cease to exist. Why? He says that we, our soul, is actually who we truly are. And Lord Krishna is very philosophical and very poetic about the nature of the soul. He says that it is imperishable, it is indestructible. Weapons cannot cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot drench it, wind cannot make it dry. So the soul cannot be cut, cannot be burnt, cannot be wetted or drowned, nor it can be dried out and starved to death or anything. He says,
all things that can happen to our body
cannot happen to our soul. He says the soul is made up of the same matter that Lord Krishna, that God, the energy in the whole universe, that same energy is in us. And that is eternal, all-pervading, unchanging, and everlasting. He says that it's really hard for us to understand the soul because it's incomprehensible. It's really hard to wrap our brains around and identify with our souls because we've never seen it.
Something that we can't feel, touch, see, that with our senses sort of experience, it's hard for us as humans to grasp.
Correct.
Beautiful idea.
And look, if you believe in the Gita, which hopefully all of us do, because let's face it, everything Krishna has said in the Gita so far has been spot on. I don't know why we would not believe this. And there is a reason why we won't believe this, right? Because he says it's beyond human comprehension, therefore you're not going to believe it. But he says the soul is eternal, cannot be destroyed. It's always been there, it always will be there, and that's a fact. Then let's talk about the journey of the soul. He says the soul enters a body, and it is this soul that gives a body consciousness. It gives a body life. When the body dies and the soul leaves, the body no longer has life or consciousness. It starts to decompose immediately. So what gives the body life is actually the presence of the soul. And then he says, once the soul enters the body then passes through childhood, youth, old age, disease, and death. And then, once the body is no longer useful for the soul leaves the body and passes into another one where it can continue its journey of evolution. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, one thing that you said is that, the body passes through these stages of life, but even if it doesn't, even if you don't get to old age, the concept is still the same. The soul is done with this body in this lifetime.
Correct.
For whatever reason.
Or the body has ceased to be of use to the soul. Whatever the reason, once the body is no longer functioning, the soul leaves. It's like, okay, bye.
Disease.
Accident.
Right.
And Krishna talks about this process in almost, I don't want to say nonchalant, but very matter of fact and very casual way. He says in chapter 2, verse 22, just as a man takes off worn out garments and puts on new ones, so the soul casts off worn out bodies and enters into new ones.
This is so interesting. This makes a lot of sense. When my uncle passed away in India, my cousin and I were talking, and she was talking about there's so many rituals that Hindus do to send the soul on their journey, but there's also kind of a very sort of the word nonchalant, like a really casual way of even treating the body itself, the physical body itself once the person has passed. And it feels so callous to us being in this country where so much reverence is given to the actual physical body. But I think because of what you just said, there's the idea that the essence of that body is gone. And this physical thing that is here is not what's the most important thing about the person.
Exactly. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. But there's one more verse I want to talk about that is quite comforting. Lord Krishna says, who you truly are, okay, your essence, yourself, he is never born, he or she, he is never born, nor does he die, nor having once come into being, once the soul exists, it will never again cease to be. Who you really are is unborn, eternal, and ancient. Even though the body is killed, the soul never dies.
That is a comfort. So we're so much more than, you can't see me, podcast listeners, but I'm just shaking, moving my fingers, moving my hands. We're more than all of this.
So much more. Indestructible, all-powerful, ancient, unchanging. We are untouchable in reality of who we actually are. We are invincible. And Lord Krishna uses that word, that we are invincible, beyond the frailties of the body.
I love that. We're all these superheroes underneath the skin.
100%. Now, is it some comfort? Yes. Is it a lot of comfort when you're going through the tragedy and the grief? I don't know. It's so overwhelming.
Hard to say. Yeah. It is overwhelming. It is definitely a comfort.
Let's hope so. Let's talk more about the soul's journey. We've talked about the soul passing from one body to another as the body either ages and dies or for some other reason dies. Then the soul leaves the body and goes into another one. Now, what makes the soul the soul? He says the soul in the body is an eternal, everlasting portion of myself. Krishna's saying the soul, it's a part of me. Understand that the true nature of our souls is that we are part of God. We are part of the universe. We are part of the all-powerful energy that makes this cosmos tick.
And we're all connected that way.
Very much so. He says that when the soul enters the body, it then activates the five senses: sound, sight, taste, smell, and touch. When the soul enters the body, then the body is able to actually sense things. Because think about it, when the soul leaves the body cannot sense anything, right?
Right.
You can cut open a cadaver, you can do anything to it, it's not going to react, can't sense anything. So he says, once the soul enters the body, then it activates the senses. And the mind, the thought process, our mindset, how we actually think is the sixth thing it activates. The soul activates five senses and activates also the same mindset that it died with. This is all, by the way, in chapter 15, verses 7 and 8. Lord Krishna says that when this fragment of himself takes up a body, and then when the soul leaves the body again, the soul carries the five senses and its intellect, its mindset with it, just like the wind carries a scent from one place to another. What he's saying is we take our relationship with our senses and we take our thought processes with us. That's actually what makes me, me, or you, you. So we all know that the mindset makes what I am, right? The way I think, the way I process information makes me, me, right? Do I tend towards anger? Do I tend towards sorrow? Do I tend towards happiness? That makes me, me, my personality. But the other thing that makes me, me, very important, is how I interpret my senses, my relationship with what I see, my relationship with what I hear, my relationship with what I smell, my relationship with what I touch, my relationship with what I taste. Okay? Say, for example, I like chocolate, you like vanilla. Going on to my next life, I will still like chocolate, and Shayla, you still will like vanilla.
I'll love creme brulee forever.
And so that's a simplistic thing. But if taste is really important to me, and that's my indulgence, so I tend to overeat. That I will take with me. If I tend towards anger, what I hear, what I see makes me angry, triggers me. That's my relationship with my senses. That's how I process what I'm experiencing. That comes with me. Basically, your likes, dislikes, your preferences, your relationship with how you exist in the world and how you process goes with you. That belongs to your soul. Who you are does not actually belong to your body. It belongs to your soul.
Can I ask you a question?
I'll try and answer it.
So, what if in this lifetime I have really worked on my anger issues? Like I've worked on trying to experience the world around me differently and interpret it in a way that doesn't elicit anger. How does that carry forth into the next life?
Well done, you. In your next life, because of all the effort you've put into this life, your next life, you already have that under your belt. So you will not tend towards anger. I'll give you an example. We've all seen videos of Michael Jackson or Beyonce when they're like 5 years old. Or Mozart, I think, wrote his first piano concerto at something like 11,
Child geniuses.
child geniuses. That is impossible for a human to achieve unless they have worked on this in many, many previous lifetimes. So you take your talents, you take your weaknesses, you take your strengths, your relationship of how you process the world and how you interact with the world goes with you.
We always talk about evolving through the Gita, right? So however you've evolved in this lifetime, you take that growth with you.
The growth or
Yeah, exactly.
the reverse or the detriment with you. That's exactly right, Shayla. And Lord Krishna even says it in black and white in the Gita, chapter 6, verse 43. He says, Arjuna, in the new body, a soul regains the understanding of his previous birth. That's not to say you understand what happened in your previous birth. No. Your mindset, the way you understand things and process things, he says that gets reignited in your new body, the way you understand and process things. Krishna says, Arjuna, in the new body, there the soul regains the understanding of his previous birth. His tendencies are roused in him, and through that he strives with greater vigor than before for perfection. And the reverse is also true. If you have indulged in your anger and you have become so full of rage, that will be roused in you in your next life. And then you're going to have to deal with that consequences, and you create your karma, your actions, and your karmic account based on that.
As the Indigo Girl said, you have this opportunity to let the next life off the hook. So we all have to do better. That's inspiring and motivating to do better, because you don't want to necessarily have to battle the same demons you have in this life, in the next life, right? But if you do, and all of us do, right? There's some things that I need to work through that I'm going to have to work through again in another lifetime. And in that next lifetime, based on my karma, I'll be in an environment that allows me to further work on that particular challenge and work through it for the lifetime after.
And Lord Krishna says that you will be surrounded by people in your next lifetime who will support you on your journey even more.
To help you continue to evolve, to support you in what you've changed, but to also challenge you in what still requires resolution.
100%.
I find that a real comfort, to think we're all working really hard in this lifetime to improve ourselves, and we'll have opportunities to continue to evolve. Don't waste the opportunities you have now. Use them, but you'll also have them again.
Well, you'll only have them again if you take advantage of them this time.
Right.
There's a great saying, whatever you think about, whatever you work on grows. I always tell my students and even myself, how lucky are we to have this opportunity to grow? Don't waste this opportunity, because you don't know in your next life if you will have access to the teachings of the Gita unless you take advantage of it now. So don't squander this incredible opportunity and resources you have. You want to build on that and strive and move further upwards in your journey in your next life.
Right.
So how do we strive? How do we get better? Lord Krishna says in chapter 2 as well as in chapter 12, he says that any opportunity, any challenge which comes your way, think of yourself as lucky. How lucky I am that this obstacle has come in my path, that I can now use this opportunity to evolve and grow stronger and work on my issues.
Right.
Very, very, very difficult when, the shit is hitting the fan. Very difficult to think, okay, I need to practice equanimity. This is an opportunity. But as I think it was Winston Churchill who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Every crisis is an opportunity to grow stronger, make improvements, and make meaningful change to become better. If not physically, then certainly mentally, mental fortitude, That's what elevates your soul.
I think all of us, when we reflect back on life, can say that we've grown the most during times that were difficult and challenging, right? When you're kind of coasting along, at least for me, there's still opportunities for evolution at those times too. But when I've had my biggest pivots in life have been at times when I've faced the most challenges. So I think exactly what you're saying, all these obstacles in your way, we should think about them as opportunities for growth and try not to focus on the difficulties, but think about it as an opportunity. And it is hard. It's really hard. It's hard to see the silver lining.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. I know this sounds cheesy, but if you're able to transcend your body and identify with the soul, it becomes easier because now you're playing a really long game. As Lord Krishna says, it's much easier to practice equanimity and to be able to understand that every situation passes if you're playing the long game and understand every situation passes, every feeling will pass, our lives will pass, our bodies will pass.
This is the only thing we know for sure, that everything is impermanent.
And Krishna says, if you are able to identify with your soul and do what's best for your soul, that's how you can elevate yourself and be able to rise above the suffering of the body by focusing on, okay, my soul is going to be forever here. What's the best thing for me karmically to do to elevate and evolve my soul? Really hard to do.
But I think that's the best way I've heard it described, honestly. If we can manage to do that, if we can manage to sort of transcend ourselves and think about evolution across lifetimes and not just what this body is capable of doing, it would change things. It's hard to do.
Everything in the Gita is hard to do. Otherwise, we'd all do it. And we'd all be liberated and free and be one with God. And we'd be like partying with Krishna and the gopis. And it's fantastic.
Krishna loves to rave, loves a rave.
He does. Loves to dance.
Loves a dance party.
Right? So here we are down here.
We are trudging along.
So we've talked about now reincarnation and how it ties in with karma. And the actions you take elevates or degrades your soul. And the soul takes with it from one body to the next its intellect and mindset, how you process things, how you think, your relationship with your senses, how you process that. The soul also takes its karmic account with it. What it has to face in subsequent lives is because of the karmic account. And the soul chooses what kind of actions the body's going to take. And then those actions affect what kind of body and situation you're going to get in your next lifetime. We've talked about this before, but that's how karma plays into reincarnation. And what does dharma have to do with this? Lord Krishna says that doing your duty to the best of your capability in any situation is how you create good karma and elevate your soul. And the whole point eventually is that every single cell in your body, every single thought, every single action becomes godlike, and then you leave the body and you become one with God. And the last thing, Lord Krishna says that looking at your duty, you should never waver, because there is no greater good you can do for yourself. That's the highest good that you can do for yourself, for the world, and for your soul, is taking the opportunity to do your duty.
And I think doing your duty and doing the right thing is every choice you make. Every day you're faced with a million choices. And if you think about each of those choices in a way that'll constantly keep you evolving in a direction of your own personal growth, that keeps you kind of narrowly focused. We've mentioned having this like bird's eye view of several lifetimes and evolving through all those lifetimes, but you don't really actually have to keep your eye on that. That's going to happen.
Right.
The instruction is still the same, because If you're doing everything else that Krishna talks about, if you're focusing on your duty, then you'll get there.
I agree. The advice is always the same. Do your duty, but it becomes easier or more motivating to do your duty if you identify with your soul rather than your body, which is really hard to do. But if you identify with yourself as a soul on a journey towards moksha, nirvana, freedom, liberation, and union with God, if you focus on that and can shift your mindset towards identifying with your soul and understanding why you're here on this planet, it becomes easier to do your duty. Things just become clearer. Keeping sight of what is your duty versus what's pleasant or unpleasant. Lord Krishna keeps saying, just do your dharma. There is no greater good than doing your dharma, especially in a moral quandary. That's the biggest bang for your buck. If you can manage to do your duty and choose the righteous path when you're in a moral quandary.
When it's the most difficult.
That's why it has so many points attached to it.
That's right. You get to go up a level.
Exactly. In the video game, you go up a level. But Lord Krishna says the reverse is also true. Abandoning your duty, you will incur bad karma. You will have to face the karmic consequences of not doing your duty. And we've recorded many episodes on dharma, and the whole of season 4 discusses dharma. How do you identify your duty and go about fulfilling it?
So once again, when you're faced with that choice, somebody has made you upset and you have the choice to be really angry and go off on them, or you have the choice to take a deep breath and respond in a way that is going to stand up for yourself, which is always important. But you do it in a way that's calm. So if you make that choice to act calmly and not act out of anger, the long-term consequence in terms of reincarnation is that before your filter was to look at everything through a lens of anger, but now you're working on that through these daily choices, and eventually you work through that. And in your next life, you don't have to face that particular challenge anymore.
And you'll also have less things that make you angry, because they're all opportunities for you to work on your issues, to work on anger.
Right.
But so long as you're doing your duty.
As long as you are dealing with it.
Correct.
Evolving, changing, growing.
Exactly. Alrighty.
That was pretty great. I really needed this podcast.
I know you've had a tough few weeks, Shayla. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. But you said in this beginning, suffering in this lifetime is inevitable, right? But this podcast in particular is an opportunity for me to change my perspective and start looking at these situations in a different light. And I don't know if I'll get there, but the seed has been planted.
All that matters is the effort and the intention that you're trying. That is a big karmic win right there.
Yeah. Do the best, leave the rest.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this podcast. Thank you again, Shayla, for urging us to do this topic. As everybody else struggles with it, so do Shayla and I. And Lord Krishna says that's normal. You're going to struggle with it because you can't comprehend the incomprehensible. So he says just focus on doing your duty.
And hopefully we've made it slightly more comprehensible through this podcast. And as always, we would love to hear your questions and your comments. And if you have a question about reincarnation, someone else does too. So please drop us a line. You can find us on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, at Geeta Girl Podcast. Check us out on our website, geetagirl.com. And you can email us at sharmila@geetagirl.com. We love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think about this podcast and what questions you have and what ideas you have for future episodes. Thank you, as always, for listening. Continue to grow and evolve, and we will too, right alongside you.
Thank you, everyone. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Vasudeva Sutam Devam कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्